Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Amma ba'du fa'uzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qala Allah ta'ala fil Qur'anil Hakim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Inna hazihi tazkiratun faman shata khizaila rabbihi sabila. And that verse is translated as follows. Surely this, meaning the Quran, surely this is a reminder. So whoever wishes may take away to his Lord. Chapter 73, verse 19. And then, Inna hazihi tazkiratun faman shata khiza ila rabbihi sabila wa ma tashauna illa in yasha Allahu inna Allaha kana aliman hakima. And that translates as follows. Surely this is a reminder, again meaning the Holy Quran. So whoever wishes, let him take away to his Lord. And you do not wish unless Allah pleases. Surely Allah is ever knowing, wise. And this is chapter 76, verses 29 and 30. And lastly, in Hawala Zikru lil Alamin liman sha minkum an yastaqim wa ma tashauna illa yasha Allahu rabbul alamin. And that is, this is nothing but a reminder for the nations, for all mankind, for whichever among you who wishes to go on the right path, and you do not wish unless Allah pleases, who is the Lord of the worlds. And this is chapter 81, verses 27 to 29. These three sets of verses which I've recited are very similar in their beginning. The beginning tells us that the Holy Quran is a reminder, zikr or tazkira, a reminder of what is right and wrong, of what is good and bad, and a reminder of the previous revelations that came before the Holy Quran, and a reminder to human beings of what is already in their nature as created by God. Now, after saying this, all these passages say that the Quran has come so that whoever wishes may take the path which leads to God, or it's also called the straight path in one of these verses. And the first verse which I recited is then not followed by anything more on this subject. Surely this is a reminder so that whoever wishes may take a way to his Lord. That is all that first verse says. In the second two cases, which are recited from chapter 76 and chapter 81, it goes on then to say, after mentioning that whoever wishes may follow the path explained in the Quran, they go on to say, and you do not wish unless Allah pleases. And this is generally taken to mean that it is only if Allah pleases and He wills it that a person can choose to follow the right path. This is how it's generally taken to mean. And people think it means that if Allah does not will and decree that a certain person should follow the right path, then that person will not choose to follow the right path. So The question which arises is, does Allah ever decree about certain people that they should not choose the right path? Now, in the third passage which I recited above, the Holy Quran is described as a reminder for the nations. There are no people on earth who can be excluded from the nations, from this description of Alameen. Therefore, there cannot be any person about whom Allah has passed the decree that he will not choose the right path, the path of reaching Allah. And according to the Holy Quran, the Prophet Noah, that's Nuh alayhi salam, he said to his people, do you wonder that a reminder has come to you from your Lord through a man from among you, through a man who is one of you, so that he may warn you and that you may guard against evil and that mercy may be shown to you. This is chapter 7, verse 63. And not only Hazrat Noah, but this was also the message of every prophet to his people. The whole purpose of this thing called the reminder, the book of God, was to teach people to guard against wrongdoing so that God may show them mercy. And it's clear from this that God did not decree or preordain about anyone that they should reject his message. And the next verse relating to Noah says this, but they called him a liar, so we saved him and those with him in the ark, that's that boat, and we drowned those who rejected our messages. Surely they were a blind people. So these people's rejection of the message which came to them from God was their own action, and it can't be called something which has been willed and preordained by Allah. In another place in the Holy Quran, in fact in Surah Yasin, the Holy Quran tells us that Allah will address the guilty people in the next life with the following words. Allah will say to them, didn't I tell you, O children of Adam, not to serve the devil? Surely he is your open enemy, and that you should serve me. This is the right way. And certainly the devil led astray numerous people from among you. Could you not then understand? Could you not then use your sense and reason? Chapter 36, verses 60 to 62. So this means that God commanded every human being not to serve the devil, but instead to consider the devil as an enemy and that they should serve God. And this command was conveyed to them through the prophets of God and also directly in their inner nature, in the inner nature of every human being, that the devil is your open enemy. You should not serve him, but instead serve Allah. And on top of that, as it says here, God gave human beings the power of understanding. And it was because they did not use that power that they were led astray by the devil. So it cannot be that there are any people about whom God did not please that they should follow the right path. And just before these verses, which I've now, whose translation I've read, it is stated about the day of judgment. It says, so this day, no soul is treated unjustly in the least, and you are only rewarded for what you did. verse 54 of chapter 36. If there was any soul which did not find the right path because Allah did not will that he should follow it, if that was the reason, through no fault of that soul, then that soul would have been treated unjustly. And this verse also adds that a soul's reward, whether it is good or bad, comes from its own deeds, whether they are good or bad. So, as it says, you are only rewarded for what you did. It is again and again mentioned in the Holy Quran that God judges with justice. For example, it is said about the day of judgment that judging on that day will be just. And as for those whose good deeds are heavy, they are the successful ones. And as for those whose good deeds are light, they are the ones who ruined their own souls because they disbelieved in our messages. This is chapter 7, verses 8 and 9. The judgment of God is based on what people did and on their practical actions. If their good deeds are light and less and small because God prevented them from doing good deeds, then God's judgment cannot be called just because he is the one who stopped them from doing good deeds. And in the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his idol worshipping opponents said to him, and it is in the Holy Quran, their words are in the Holy Quran, if Allah pleased, we would not have worshipped all these idols which we set up alongside Allah as gods, nor would our forefathers, nor would our fathers have worshipped them. This is chapter 6, verse 148. And what they meant was that since Allah did not stop them and did not stop their ancestors from worshipping idols, this means that their act has Allah's approval and is in accordance with Allah's pleasure. But the Holy Quran then goes on to answer their argument. It says, have you any knowledge so that you can present it to us? You are only following a conjecture and you only tell lies. In other words, they have no sound basis, the idol worshippers have no sound basis to jump to the conclusion that God approves of their idol worship because he is letting them do it. And they are then told in the Holy Quran that Allah's argument is the conclusive or winning argument. If he had pleased, it says the Holy Quran, if he had pleased, he would have guided you all. And the meaning of this is that if Allah was going to impose his will on people about what beliefs they should adopt, he would have made all of them to follow the right guidance. He would not have forced any of them to go on the wrong path. And again in the Holy Quran, regarding various nations, there are many examples of this, who were punished by Allah, it is stated 7 times in the Holy Quran that in these words or similar words, Allah did not wrong them, but they wronged themselves. So there are the 7 references of this, which you will find in the printed text of this khutbah. Now, if God himself had withdrawn from them the choice to follow the right path, then this statement cannot be true, which says Allah did not do them any wrong, but they wronged themselves. So now we come to this question of what is the meaning of the verses which I recited at the beginning? That the Quran is a reminder for anyone who wishes to take the right path, but you do not wish unless Allah pleases. And this statement can have several meanings, several different possible meanings. One is that this wish to follow the right path arises in a human being's heart only because Allah has been pleased to put it inside every human being, the desire to follow the right guidance. And then on top of that, Allah has granted the human beings all the means by which they can achieve this desire to follow the right path. So this is what could be meant by you do not wish unless Allah pleases. The words unless Allah pleases don't necessarily mean that Allah will sometimes apply the principle which He has laid down and sometimes He will not, because it says unless Allah pleases. Now, an example of this is that when Ibrahim alayhi salam was arguing with his people against their idol worship, Ibrahim said to them, I don't fear in any way these gods that you've set up with Allah. I don't fear them unless my Lord pleases. Chapter 6, verse 80. And the words unless my Lord pleases certainly do not mean that Allah might possibly change this so that Abraham starts fearing the idols worshipped by his people. Abraham says, I don't fear your idols unless my Lord please. But that doesn't mean that Allah can then start making Abraham fear the idols if Allah so wishes. What these words, unless my Lord pleases, only mean is that it is by the will of Allah that Abraham has no fear of the idols. Similarly, in the words we are discussing here, so whoever wishes, let him take a way to his Lord, and you do not wish unless Allah pleases. They don't mean that there are some people to whom Allah has granted that they choose to follow the right path, and there are others who have been barred by Allah from following the right path. What these words mean is that people have this choice of following the right path only because Allah has provided them with that choice of following the right path by sending His guidance. And there is another possible meaning of these words. The words in Arabic for and you do not wish unless Allah pleases are وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. And these can equally well mean you have no will except the will of Allah. And the same word Shah here is used for the will of the person and for the will of God. And what that amounts to saying is that if you wish to reach God, if you wish to follow the right path, the only way is to make your will to be whatever is the will of God. The more you follow the will of God as if it was your own will, the more you will progress along the path to Him. And there is perhaps another point we might remember here, that it is said here, and I repeat it again, surely this is a reminder, so whoever wishes, let him take a way to his Lord. Now, what any person can do depends on his or her circumstances. And much of people's circumstances are beyond their control. So a person might not have the opportunity to acquire proper knowledge of the Word of God. And a person's wish to follow the right path may be limited by the circumstances of his life. So this may be the reason for these words, that you do not wish unless Allah pleases. That your wish can only come into effect if Allah has created also the right circumstances. Now, I'll give here a simple example. A person wants to be educated. That wish can only be fulfilled to the extent of the opportunities available to him. If there are no learning facilities accessible to him, or only very basic facilities, then his progress will be limited. So a person's will to do something, his or her wish to do something, is not sufficient for his advancement. External circumstances which are beyond his control place a limit on what he can do. So a person's will only acts within the limits set by Allah's will. And this is that medium or middle position which the Holy Quran teaches us. Some people went to one extreme and say a person's will is all in all, and that determines his course of life. Others went to the opposite extreme and said that God has ordained and decided and willed everything, and a person's will doesn't matter. And so the Holy Quran has kept us in this middle position, that a person has will of his own, but that will can only act within the limits set by Allah's will. And it is because what a person can do is limited by the circumstances brought by Allah's will. Because what a person can do is limited by his circumstances, which are beyond his control, many of which are beyond his control. It is because of this that the Holy Quran repeatedly states that Allah does not impose on any soul, any duty or any requirement or any expectation beyond its ability or capacity, or beyond the strength or capacity which Allah has given it. So this is stated directly some 5 times in the Holy Quran, and indirectly elsewhere as well. That, in other words, the conclusion is that Allah has revealed the Holy Quran that people may have then the choice of following the right path. But then the question arises that people are under different circumstances and they don't all have the same opportunity. So this is why it goes on to say in 2 places, and you don't wish, you can't have that wish unless Allah pleases, unless your circumstances are such. And Allah then takes all those into account by not imposing on any person a duty, requirement, or expectation which that person cannot fulfill because of the circumstances which are ordained by Allah. So may Allah enable us to remain in this middle position in our beliefs and not go to opposite extremes. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quranil Azim wa nafa'na wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim innahu ta'ala jawadun karimun malakun wa rahim.